We do roll on here on Three Dog Thursday. Time to talk more NBA, and we're now part of the video roundtable in addition to the audio podcast. I am merely the somewhat lucid, somewhat capable host. I've enlisted some NBA experts to join me that you're seeing on screen. A reminder to find the YouTube page, the Three Dog Thursday YouTube page. You can see us as well as hear the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you hear the podcast. Let's bring in, I love the insight, the wisdom, especially on the NBA. He's not smiling yet. Why are you not smiling, DeShaun Tate? Because the NBA is back here in Orlando. Mr. Tate's Take is back with me here on the program. Good to see you, sir.
Man, good to see you too, Kevin, as well. I don't know why not the smile. I don't know.
There it is.
Being the big basketball head that I am, happy to have basketball back finally after all this time. I guess I'm maybe a little so excited, overly excited. I'm all out of smiles for some reason.
You're not going to be able to sleep for the next 2 or 3 days. Kevin Rogers back with me, reunited, and it feels so good. I'm not going to sing it. Kevin has been with this program for a long time now. He hosts the Bet and Collect podcast on Vegas Insider. Where is your product placement on that shirt? Sit up a little bit and let me see VegasInsider.com right there on the shirt. Kevin Rogers, great to see you. Great to have you to talk some NBA.
It's going to be back, and yeah, like DeShaun said, you know, the NBA, it's just a funny thing now with this bubble and playing in Orlando that after the 4-month delay, and now we're back. Is it still the same season? We don't really know. It's just there's so many uncertain things going into this that, I mean, everyone wants to say Bucks Lakers in the final. I don't know. Like, I can't say that definitively just because there's so many different factors. No, we'll talk about all of that, but no home court. Just hopefully nobody leaves the bubble for any other reason to get food or do any of that. But at least the good news is the no positive COVID tests. Hopefully This thing goes off without a hitch, and we should be good through the end of the finals.
Yeah, the NBA did announce on Wednesday when we're taping for Three Dog Thursday, they've done another round of COVID tests, over 300 of them, 0 positive. So the bubble working, going back a couple of weeks now, at least for now, and for the hoops. All right, so let's pick it up on the point that Kevin made here about the intrigue and the anticipation. If I say to both of you, DeShaun, you first, give me any team out of the resumption that intrigues you the most, with one disclaimer. Forget the Lakers. Everybody's paying attention to LeBron and the Lakers. That is a given. Besides the Lakers, give me another team that really intrigues you, and why, DeShaun Tate.
Well, as bad as I want to say that team is the Indiana Pacers in the event that we have a healthy Victor Oladipo, the unfortunate part is that the other best player on their team, being Domantas Sabonis, a first-time NBA All-Star this year, is out on an injury as well. So outside of that, I'm still going to stay within the Eastern Conference. I'm going to go with the Miami Heat, who after adding Andre Iguodala adds a little bit of experience to a very youthful club. It seems like Kendrick Nunn has kind of come out of nowhere. Tyler Hero, obviously with his long-range perimeter as a threat, as a jump shooter. And Bam Adebayo, who looks to be like a grown man, a mixture between a combination of Kenneth Faried motor and Ben Wallace kind of body build and shot blocking ability. I like those guys. And last but certainly not least, of course, you have Jimmy Butler. But in addition to that, a guy like a Duncan Robinson, who I know within that system, when he starts out and and converts on his very first 3 of the game, they have a very, very good winning percentage of that. And so far, he's about 500, 32 for 64 on his very first 3-point attempt being converted.
All right, so Indiana, the 5 spot right now, for what it's worth, tied virtually with Philadelphia in that 5 spot. Same question to you, Kevin Rogers. Besides the Lakers, somebody that really, really intrigues you right now.
Well, I'm going to stay in the Eastern Conference and look at 2 other teams that DeShaun didn't mention. First, the world champion Toronto Raptors. Number 1, an incredible job. They've gotten this far without Kawhi Leonard this year, with him obviously being with the Clippers. And to see, you know, if Toronto can do it now, you know, they still have great pieces, still a great roster. If they can knock off Milwaukee for a second straight season in the playoffs, and the Boston Celtics, another team. Now there's no Kyrie. You don't have that distraction anymore of Kyrie being there with him, you know, off in Brooklyn. And you have Kemba Walker, as long as he can stay healthy, the pieces of Gordon Hayward and Jason Tatum, and there's just so many other guys that Brad Stevens has to go to. I mean, this team had a home court against Cleveland and LeBron a few years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they ended up shooting very poorly and lost that game, had a shot to go to the finals against Golden State and couldn't do it. And now you wonder, with Kyrie not there anymore, if they're going to be a team that can make a run. I know we don't really list anybody in the Western Conference. I mean, past the Lakers and Clippers, I don't really know. Maybe the Rockets, are one team that can make a run at it. I don't know if we have a lot of faith in Denver or Utah.
What about
or
Zion?
City.
What about Zion and the Pelicans?
What about Zion?
Does it not intrigue you that they could maybe make a run? That doesn't intrigue you at all, Kevin? You first, real quick.
Well, first of all, we know why they're there, because the NBA wanted Zion there. And if Zion and the Pelicans were the 8th seed, you'd have 16 teams left and not 23 teams left.
True.
But, I mean, look, we all wanted to see what Zion could do with the Pelicans this entire season. And obviously, if he was healthy, the Rookie of the Year race would have been tremendous with he and Ja Morant. And Ja Morant will win Rookie of the Year for Memphis and what he's done for the Grizzlies, who are expected to do nothing this year, and they're in the 8th spot currently. But, for the Pelicans, it would be intriguing if somehow they got the 8th and they faced LeBron and Anthony Davis in the first round, but they play no defense. And there's a lot there. There's a lot to overcome for New Orleans. I think they play Memphis twice during this 8-game stretch. They also play Sacramento a few times. So they're going to be tested. New Orleans has opportunities if they want to make that 8th spot. But is it intriguing? Yeah, but at the same time, I think that their shelf life is not very big.
Interesting.
Or long. I should say long, not big.
Yeah, well, and we should say, again, that he is one of the stars of the league. They are a long shot to make the playoffs. This may be short-lived. It may only be a couple of weeks for the Pelicans. I, for one, am intrigued. I saw DeShaun nodding and smiling. I can tell you're intrigued to see what they can do. And they're going to open up, as we're talking again here on 3 Dog Thursday, in the first game of the restart on Thursday night. And it would not surprise me if that one is massively rated because of Zion. It's there by design. I see you nodding, DeShaun. Preach on real quick on how intrigued you are with Zion and the Pelicans.
Yeah, sure. That's with Zion. I know that he was cleared yesterday to practice today, and they're unsure of the likelihood of him actually playing on Thursday or how long he's going to be out moving forward. But while I do agree with Kevin and what he's saying as far as them not playing defense, there is one player on there who is a pretty big deciding factor, especially on the defensive end, and his name is Drew Holiday, who is inarguably one of the best defensive players so far that we've seen on the perimeter, especially this season. But I think that in the event that they, matched up with the Lakers in a situation like that in the playoffs, they can maybe win one game, and that's at best. I don't see them going to. I think if there's anybody that's contending for that 8th spot that could win more than one game potentially against the Los Angeles Lakers, then that would probably be a very healthy now with Zach Collins and Nurkic, led by, CJ McCollum and obviously Damian Lillard. That would be the Portland Trailblazers, but everybody's going to have their work cut out for them going up against the King. The thing that I love the most probably about any of this is the fact that, it seems like they're all kind of playing more so on a level playing field a little bit more now, where home court advantage, as much as the NBA is really trying to work that out to where the home team has an advantage, they're still under the bubble and all playing on the neutral side in the end. So I think that it is a little bit likely for the Lakers to advance past that first round, but they'll have their hands full with the Blazers in the event.
We are looking on screen again for those of you that are with us on the video roundtable. Again, find it through YouTube, the 3 Dog Thursday YouTube page. We're looking at the Western Conference standings here. So if you're only hearing us, we're making reference to what we can see. And we can clearly see that for Portland, New Orleans, and Sacramento, as this begins, they're all down right here, 3.5 games behind Memphis. But immediately, a couple of them get cracks at Memphis and could make up ground. Portland gets a crack at them right away on Friday at the time that we're taping and could make up a game immediately. So that kind of segues into the next topic. Let's go back to Kevin Rogers, Vegas Insider. Of those three, Sacramento, Portland, and the New Orleans Pelicans, which one would have – they all have long odds. Here we are with the odds. Which one has the best chance to catch Memphis, if any of them are going to catch Memphis? Who would you go with?
I'm with DeShaun on the Blazers simply because they got up to that poor start this year. That's why their record is where it's at. But Portland has by far the best 1-2 punch of any of those teams with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And you know you're going to get in this 8-game stretch a 30-point game from Carmelo Anthony. Like, you know that's going to happen. He's going to bust out and have one of these crazy Carmelo games. And the Blazers, I think a lot of people forget this. They had Golden State beat a few times in the Western Conference Finals last year. They threw away a 15-point lead, I believe, in Game 2, and they had another big lead in one of those games. So I know Golden State made quick work of them last year in the Western Conference Finals, but they still hung around in that. They knocked off Denver in the previous round. This is still a very good team. Sacramento had a lot of issues with the coronavirus, and they got some nice players. They have some opportunities maybe to make up some ground. My problem with Memphis is if the season didn't stop, I think they could be the 8th seed. With the season stopping, I think it was the worst thing for them because they had so much momentum going into the final stretch of the season. But I got to believe that Portland, just because of experience, that they are going to find a way to get to that 8th spot and play the Lakers in the first round.
Yeah, Memphis only really on the math needs to win like 3 or 4 games, and then they're okay. They're going to be in trouble once they get to a 5th loss or a 6th loss if one of those teams gets hot here in the 7 or 8 games that they're playing. So kind of got to hang on. DeShaun, do you agree with that as we go to Mr. Tate's Take here where basketball lives with everything with Tate's Take? Do you agree that Portland has the best chance out of Sacramento and New Orleans to catch Memphis?
I think it is Portland, not only because of the fact that, they're not dealing with health issues. Obviously, Marvin Bagley being out, De'Aaron Fox just coming back from an injury again. But even more so, when you start talking about the fact that they also are a very experienced team, and that's something that the New Orleans Pelicans are not necessarily, especially when you start talking about playoffs, even more so than we're just talking about players and their tenure within the NBA. So for sure, I definitely say the Portland Trailblazers. And I just want to take a slight rewind real quick, because when you were talking about intriguing teams, I mentioned the Miami Heat, who have their hands full playing the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference right out the gate, starting on Monday against the Raptors, against Boston, and against Milwaukee. I will also say that on the West Coast, one of those dangerous teams is also the Oklahoma City Thunder, who has probably overachieved and surprised just about everybody, myself included, on what they've been able to do thus far throughout the duration of the season.
And again, the larger picture is we don't know. After 4 months off, we don't know what anybody's going to look like for the first 2 or 3 games. And it may be to somebody's advantage that we don't even know about, that they come out hot here on the first couple of weeks. Guys, stand by on that point for –
TJ,
yeah, go ahead.
Quick thing. For Memphis, here's your final 3 games of the restart: Toronto, Boston, and Milwaukee. So good luck with that. If all those teams locked up their seeds, maybe they sit guys out, but still, and they play Utah, they play New Orleans, and then you mentioned Portland at the beginning. It's a rough gauntlet for Memphis.
And we should make mention that, again, the NBA looked at the remainder of the schedule, and they went with every team that is still left in their regular season end and their postseason end, and said just go in order for 7 or 8 games, how many number of games it is, go in order from those teams. So that's what Memphis's remaining schedule is from those that are alive. That's how they did it with every team. That's how it works. That's the voice of Kevin Rogers, DeShaun Tate with me. It is 3 Dog Thursday. If you're only hearing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Red Circle, Google Podcasts, find the video as well of 3 Dog Thursday through the YouTube page here. You can see what we look like, and I appreciate these guys jumping on and talking some NBA with me for another moment or two. Guys, stand by for 1 second, because we also want to tell you about a sponsor that we have here on 3 Dog Thursday, and that's our friends at Jock Market. They have a great game that is now underway for NBA daily fantasy players to buy and sell shares of players live while the games are going on with the Jock Market app. It's available in the Apple Store. It is about to be there as well in the Google Play Store. Look under Jock Market, Jock MKT, Jock Market. And before the games ever begin on Thursday or Friday, pick your players with their imaginary chips and money with the value of the players. And then if a player is not doing well, like we were talking about, Russell Westbrook is not doing well in his game, and you decide you want to trade him, you trade him away here with Jock Market and go and buy another player. All throughout the day, buy and sell players just like the actual stock market, individual players. Unlike other daily fantasy where you're locked into your picks when the games play, the whole idea behind Jock Market is to trade these players in real time, and then according to their fantasy stats, We'll see how they end up doing. Go to jockmarket.com, MKT, jockmarket.com to find out more. It's Jock Market in the Apple Store. It is free to play. Daily contest, free to play with cash prizes for the NBA season. Get in, do the live trading. That's what makes it different. Stay in the game with Jock Market. Thank you for indulging me, boys, there on the sponsor ad as I'm back on the roundtable on the video with DeShaun Tate and with Kevin Rogers. DeShaun with Tate's Take. Find him at Tate's Take Hoops. On Twitter, find Kevin Rogers through Vegas Insider at VI Rogers. Kevin, I'm like right back in the groove here. Like we did this for years. It was like second nature. Kevin has got the Bet and Collect podcast. Plug away for that, by the way, on Vegas Insider. For our friends that are listening, plug away on the Bet and Collect podcast because you guys have got that going on at least semi-regularly, if not daily, coming up right now with all the different games resuming.
Yes, TJ, the Bet and Collect podcast, myself and Tony Mejia, we host that. And now it's basically once a week. And then once we get towards, all of this restarting, it's going to be a few times a week. But also our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider, we have begun giving out free picks daily for Major League Baseball and the NBA as well once the NBA returns. But we'll be set with that. And as you see there, our website at vegasinsider.com for the NBA win totals. You can bet on everything. I mean, you see that with you can bet on how many games these teams will win during the restart. And and that's us right there. And we'll see. And that's my face there on the right side.
Mr. Rogers.
Right. In all honesty, guys, I will say that this is probably the most difficult thing to handicap because of the layoff, because of the neutral site. You don't know what these teams are like. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's where I think it's like impossible. Okay, impossible is maybe a stretch, but very difficult, at least initially. Maybe we'll
your colleague,
playoffs.
To your point, your colleague Brian Edwards was saying earlier, okay, the New Orleans-Utah point total for the game on Thursday. Again, if you're hearing us after Thursday, you may know that game went berserk for points. You may know that it was a low-scoring game. We don't know that right now while we're talking. But that point total right now as we're talking is around 221. Those three games that they played in the regular season were all like 245 and higher. And one of them was 270 points. And I stopped him and said, how do you know your exact point, Kevin? How do you know when these two teams resume on a neutral floor that we're going to get anywhere near 221? The game could be like old school 1990s NBA and be 81-80 with several wrestling matches, technical fouls, and fights. I have no idea what we're going to see. That's the point.
Well, the other thing, too, is that third matchup went to overtime between the Jazz and the Pelicans. That's why it was so high scoring. But the one thing I'll point out is Zion Williamson did not face the Jazz in 3 meetings because the first 3 meetings all happened January and before. So he's never faced them. So that's a little bit different. And this is the first time Utah will be an underdog against New Orleans in the 4 matchups. So, yeah, and like we talked about earlier, look, New Orleans has talent. There's no disputing that. With Zion, with Brandon Ingram, who needed to break away from LeBron and the Lakers, Lonzo Ball and Drew Holiday, as DeShaun mentioned, that New Orleans has the players there. Like we can't make it out to be that they don't deserve to be there. They just wonder if defensively, if they can, if you're not having these run and gun games, if you can play a game in the 90s maybe or the low 100s. So, I mean, New Orleans still has a lot of young talent. And again, like I said at the beginning, I'm curious to see what this team could do over a season with Zion healthy and see what kind of impact they can make in the Western Conference.
I promise we got to get out of here in a moment or two. DeShaun, if you want to respond to anything that Kevin was saying there one more time about expectations. I mean, do you expect that might be – there might be some high-scoring run-and-gun games here on Thursday and Friday, and we might see a team get in the 120s, 130s, or beyond business as usual? Do you expect that, DeShaun?
I expect that, but from not nearly as much as from a consistency and persistence standpoint. I mean, there's still going to be some bumps in the road for a lot of these guys who are still trying to get back acclimated and get back around. I mean, granted, yes, these guys are pros, yet still it's going to take some time. Guys are just still trying to iron out some wrinkles and still trying to kind of like, sharpen up some loose screws, tighten up some loose screws a little bit. So while I do think that you will still see a lot of that from a lot of these teams that are especially heavy guard oriented, like the Houston Rockets, a lot of those West Coast teams that are run and gun, fast paced transition type teams, I think you'll see it. but from some other teams in the East that I think will hone in a little bit more on their defense. It might not be as much, and I think that's what will ultimately make it to be a very good balance for some good basketball.
Well said on that. We got to scoot. Great job, gentlemen. Again, find DeShaun Tate. Tate's Take Hoops is where you find him. It's where basketball lives. Find him on social media as well, on Instagram, on Facebook, Tate's Take Hoops. He's based out of Atlanta. He also leans, he's originally from Michigan, towards Michigan. I'm looking, I don't see the Pistons anywhere. I'm looking in the standings. You don't have to worry about the Pistons there in the standings. So find Tate's Take. Find also Kevin Rogers as well on VegasInsider.com, the Bet and Collect podcast, at VI Rogers on Twitter. He's a great humorous follow. Boys, thank you. I appreciate both. It's official because we have basketball back. Do not disturb DeShaun for like the next at least 72 hours. He's not available. Kevin might take your text or your email, but he's watching games. We're ready to watch some games. Boys, thank you. I appreciate you being here. All good stuff from Kevin and DeShaun. My thanks also to Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com. We thank you for being with us as well. Subscribe to the podcast if you're only hearing us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Find the video of the podcast, 3 Dog Thursday YouTube page, and subscribe. Find us here. Enjoy all the games this weekend, the hoops, as well as the baseball, the NASCAR, the UFC, everything going on. We got golf. We got it all back for this weekend. Enjoy it, and we're back next week. It'll be August next week on 3 Dog Thursday. Bye.